Hey guys, welcome back. Just give it a few minutes for some people to join us. I realized in watching some other YouTube people that I should probably, like, when we started on YouTube, I should have probably like introduced myself or my channel or done anything remotely explanatory for people who maybe don't follow me on Twitter and didn't find this channel, these classes this way. Sorry, my bangs are driving me nuts because apparently you have to trim them like every week. I didn't get that memo. Yeah, so I guess I'm gonna just take this time randomly after 6 or so weeks on this platform to say hi. I am Illy, and I'm gonna teach you painting. So today we're going to paint some bubbles. These guys right here. And I didn't put like a supply list this time around because I feel like most people who are watching this channel, or these classes rather, have done these before. But if you are new and this is your first one, part of this whole thing is like letting you explore your own creativity. So you can kind of use whatever colors you want. And like, I want you to feel empowered to do that because there is no right or wrong answer here. But if you do want it to look like mine, pretty much what I've been trying to adhere to with all of our classes is that you need white paint, black paint, blue, yellow, red. Those are your primary colors, and white and black. So far, it's been my experience that you can pretty much create almost any color you want out of those. I do feel like maybe in the future I will ask you guys to get brown paint. You can make brown by mixing everything together, but it'll never be the same twice. So I feel like brown paint, especially as we get into fall, we're going to probably want to do some like pumpkins and tree things. And I feel like brown will be helpful. So this is your warning. Invest in some brown paint if you are feeling like you might be into some of the fall paintings we're going to do. Okay, if you want it to look like mine, I'm going to use all of the colors I listed: blue, yellow, red, and white. I don't need black for this guy. And if you have chalk, that would be helpful. If you don't, it's not a big deal. You could do it with a pencil. You could just freehand it. You can trace something. So you have a ton of options for the circles. That's what I'm talking about for drawing the circles. So let's get started. I have a feeling that I am going to be killing my blue paint with this guy. If you're new here and you're like, why is her canvas not perfect? I reused canvases. So this is something that I painted a cactus on a couple weeks ago, and then I just gessoed over it kind of, and we're just gonna reuse it. Save the planet a little bit. All right, so for me, my background is just blue. Now, a lot of blues are not very opaque. They're pretty thin paints. So ordinarily, if I wanted you to have like really good coverage, I would suggest that you mix either black or white into it. And you can absolutely do that, or you can mix like any colors together to make whatever color background you want. I do think a dark background is best for the bubbles though. So any color dark background should work. Also, if you're new here, you will need something to put paint on. It does not have to be this, like, can you guys see the topographical map that is this thing weighs like maybe 3 or 4 pounds. It's a lot. Something to put your paint on that you're not going to eat off of later. You're going to need probably 2 brushes, so probably a big flat brush and then like a rounder skinny brush. Something to rinse your brushes in. Again, it's not something that you're going to drink out of. And something to dry your brushes on. Preferably something that you can wash. So if you have like paper towels, that's fine, but I'm trying to reduce my waste when it comes to painting. So there's that. Y'all are really quiet in the little chat thing. Nobody's chatting. That's fine. I'll just sit here and talk to myself. All right, so I've got a clean and dry brush. I'm going to go in with my big brush because that's my background guy, and I'm just going to paint this thing blue. Now, going back to what I was saying about the blue being pretty transparent, you are probably going to see a ton of brush strokes. First of all, I think that's fine because that's not, like, the background isn't really our focus. And so if you want to put some texture in the background, that would be like, that'd be fine. But if the brushstroke texture is driving you nuts and you'd rather it just be a single flat color, you can just drag your brush from one side to the next, and this will reduce all of those start and stop lines that you may be experiencing, and just make it look a little smoother and a little cleaner. Also, if you are painting on, I sometimes forget to mention this, but if you're painting on a wrapped canvas like I am, where it has edges, paint those edges. Makes it look nice and finished. Becky and Amy are in the house. Or I guess they're in their house because we're still social distancing. I'm doing a nice thin coat of blue. I want this to dry pretty quickly, so I'm not going to try and layer it up and get it to be completely opaque. I'm just going to kind of let it be how it is. And everybody's blue paint is going to be a different level of opaqueness. You might have some blue that has white in it already, and maybe it is super solid. But we're just going to go with the flow. I try, like, I don't know if putting this much thought into it is important to anybody but me, but I try to, like, switch up our background colors or our main colors in a painting so that you're not painting, like, back-to-back blue paintings, although I think this was the last one we did, which was also blue, but it's a different blue, so maybe I succeeded. Who knows? As usual, when I'm painting the background and there's nothing exciting that I need to explain, I like to talk about television. So Umbrella Academy, don't give me spoilers because what I'm about to say is that I haven't watched it yet. Umbrella Academy came out, the second season came out the night before Gish started. If you don't know what Gish is, it's the greatest international scavenger hunt. So I didn't watch it because I was hardcore gishing. And then I've been tired and I haven't watched it since. But Lucifer comes out next week. So I need to watch Umbrella Academy before Lucifer comes out. Right? Is anybody else, like, unnecessarily stressing about what to binge in what order because there's literally nothing else to do? I'm like, leading up to Umbrella Academy, I was really excited for season 2, but now that, like, I haven't watched it and I know that Lucifer's coming out next week, I'm, like, more excited about Lucifer, which is a bummer. But I still do want to watch Umbrella Academy. Also because Umbrella Academy has made me wait so long for it that I feel like I need to rewatch season 1 before I can watch season 2. And who has time for that? Says the girl who watched all 15 seasons, no, all 12 at the time, 12 seasons of Supernatural in a month and a half. I haven't watched it either yet. I was watching Third Watch clips this morning. Yes. I have not watched any Third Watch recently. Okay, so Good Omens. I want to like it. I really do. I love everyone in it. I really want to like it. I tried to read it and failed. I'm not the best reader. I really struggle to read and retain things. So I tried to read it and I couldn't get into it. And then I tried to listen to it on audiobook like during a road trip once and couldn't retain anything that way either. I have trouble with even podcasts, like listening, unless I'm literally doing nothing but laying in bed. I just can't seem to retain information if I'm requiring my brain to multitask. So I tried listening to it on audiobook and that failed. And then I was like, screw it, just watch the show. Like, as much as you tried to read it first, that's fine. You didn't like it, just watch the show. And I tried to watch the show and I couldn't get into that either. And I don't know what it is, because it's not like it's obviously not the genre and it's not the British of it all, because I liked Doctor Who. So I don't know what my problem with that is. I really want to like it and I want to watch it, but I didn't. Let's see. I like the book. I read it. I found it hard to read too. Yeah. Yep. I don't know. I'll get into it one day. It's the same thing, like if you, I'm about to get myself in trouble for anybody who doesn't know me fairly well, or who doesn't know Haley, my friend Haley. I have not read or watched Harry Potter, and that always gets me in a lot of trouble. And I've tried to read Harry Potter since I was 11 when it came out. Like, I've tried numerous times and I can't get into it, man. I don't know what it is, but I literally can't even get past the first chapter. Like, the talk of all of the owl on the street corner, I just can't. I don't know what it is. But anyway, so at this point, Haley's just like, just watch it. You don't have to read it, just watch it. And I still haven't done that either. Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, I don't like, Becky says, it's a little bit more Monty Python type. I haven't ever actually tried to watch Monty Python in its entirety. I've seen clips. But I'm not a comedy person. I saw somebody say they were binging Superstore. I don't like comedies. Like, I've tried. I watched The Office, but that was really just for Jim and Pam's romance. Like, I don't enjoy comedies. I get like really bad secondhand embarrassment, and like I can't do it. It's real bad. So maybe that's why. Maybe it's the comedy aspect of it that but I'm a fan of witty banter. So at some point I would like to get into it, because I feel like that's what it is. I feel like it's a drama with witty banter, and I'm all about that. We love you anyway. Thanks, Becky. I will eventually watch Harry Potter. It'll happen. Okay, so I've painted this background. I'm gonna try and let it dry while we chat for a little bit. And we're gonna chat about bubbles, because we're painting bubbles. Now, here's the thing. I don't know, I'm trying to remember if I ever made you paint something that didn't really exist before. Like, if I ever made you paint glass. I think I did once. So pretty much, bubbles are not this many colors. They're not a solid entity. They are see-through. They are soap that reflects light. So we're going to be painting light, which is really hard. Like, not to paint, but conceptually, like, you're painting light. You're painting how light reflects back and how the cones and rods in your eyes absorb that as color. Like, wrap your head around that for a second. So sorry for the little segue there. I just think it's really cool. Like, I love painting things that aren't solid. I love painting glass, like glass jars. We'll do that one day. I don't think I've made you paint a glass jar yet. Like a mason jar. But it's going to be similar to that. It's sorry, someone almost drank their paint water. That happens. I try to put my beverage, in something that's a completely different shape than whatever my paint water is. Or also, like, this is just ridiculously large. Like, I would never pick this up and drink it. Anyway, so that's what I want you to keep in mind when we are painting these bubbles. They're not solid. So when we go and we like do the edges of it, it's not going to be an outline. It doesn't have to be a perfect outline because it's just the light catching it at certain points. That's also why all of these colors are made up. That's why you can do pretty much whatever you want color-wise. It's a lot of fun. I like this. I hope you guys like painting bubbles. Okay, so one thing you will definitely need for the bubble experience is white. So you go grab your white paint, and then I've made like a creamy orange. We made like a turquoisey color and some pink. Those are my two big ones. Two. Ileana can count. My three big ones, and then you kind of like, usually I don't like for colors, like weird colors like that to blend because you never know what you're going to get. But sometimes when they blend together, you get something really like weird and cool. And especially since we're making this up, that's awesome. So we're not going to have our like steak, peas, and mashed potatoes. Like we're going to let things mingle together. I'm going to go grab a piece of chalk because I don't have one. If you have your chalk, grab some of that. Chalk. You don't have to use chalk. Also, if you want to trace anything, so if you have a paper plate or a regular plate that you are sure you won't get paint on or you don't mind getting paint on, or anything circular, a Frisbee, depending on the size of your canvas. I used on the smaller canvas, I used like a jar lid to trace. I'm just gonna freehand it. But if you're wanting something to trace, particularly for like the bigger bubbles, take a look around your house, find something that you don't mind maybe getting paint on, and give that a shot. Now, if you don't have chalk, I'm going to show you how you are going to do your bubbles. And if you do have chalk, you're going to do the same thing, but with chalk. That's probably fine. Oh, well, now I got a lot of white. I do that like literally every time because I don't have a better way of getting it out of this giant jug. Okay. So if you don't have chalk or a pencil or anything that you are able to use on your canvas to trace something or to freehand your circle, what I want you to do is grab your skinnier brush. I'm going to use this one. Why do I have so many skinny brushes? Okay. I'm going to grab a real skinny one. And I want you to make a lighter blue. So you're just going to grab whatever the blue you used for your background, and then just mix in a little bit of white because we want it to be easy to hide, easy to camouflage if we do something that we don't like. So we want it to still be like fairly dark, like a medium blue, but lighter than the background. So if you have chalk, you can either trace something or freehand your circles with the chalk. But if you don't, you can do it with this like middle blue. You are not, under any circumstances, required to or probably able to make a perfect circle on your first try without tracing something. So if you're freehanding your circles, it's going to be like one of these jobbies. Like, now if you have like a protractor, maybe. I have one somewhere, but I'm too lazy. Adding to your layers on your palette. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we're just going to go in. You don't have to do this layout. I'm going to try and adhere to something similar to this, but make as many bubbles as you want. Just make them all different sizes and make sure at least one or two of them overlap, because that's like a thing that would happen with bubbles and it makes it look a little bit more realistic. So I'm going to put a big one right here. And like I said, you're not going to get a perfect circle. And first of all, we're not going for perfect here, but you're not going to get something that resembles a real circle on your first try, most likely. Maybe for the smaller ones, but for the big ones, it's really hard. So it's okay to kind of have to go back and do some revision and get it a little bit more circular to your liking. It's okay. I think that's probably close enough. We're really just kind of eyeballing in here. Or you can trace something if that makes you feel better. Now, obviously, the proportions of these two canvases are different, so it's not going to be exact, but and the reason it doesn't matter about all of these different lines I'm creating is because we're just going to paint over it with all of our detail. Okay, I'm gonna have this guy run off the page. I always think that, like, in general, things just have a little bit more visual interest if something runs off your page or runs off your canvas. It's not always true, but it just shows that you're not trying to be constrained by anything. So when I can, I do enjoy that. Okay. So my shapes are overlapping in a couple places. You do have to also decide when we're starting to paint which ones are in front and which ones are behind. And there's going to be quite a bit of like layering happening because you might do something in your bubbles and then you might look at it and be like, I don't like that. Or the big thing is, this looks too solid, because we don't necessarily want it to look solid. So like, for example, if you see here, like right here, I did like a big orange swatch of paint. And then I was like, why? Like, that doesn't work for me. So I waited for it to dry a little bit and I put some blue, like real thin blue over it. And that's how I got that like weird multicolored stripe right there. And it looks a little green, it looks a little blue, you got that orange, you got a little yellow in there, and it just works because it helps it to look, when you add that background color back in, it helps it to look more transparent. So we're gonna probably end up layering quite a bit in this process. I'm gonna go back to my big brush now. Accidentally made Mickey bubbles. Oh, that's cute. Mickey bubbles. So I'm going back to my big brush. I'm just going to beat them up a little bit in the bottom of my water cup to get them nice and clean. I did change my water today, guys, because when I came in here to set up for this class, my water smelled real bad and I almost threw up. So I did change my water for you. Okay, let me pump myself some yellow. I think I'm going to start with that kind of like orangey color because I did find that got a little intense, and I'd like to allow myself some time for that to dry so I can layer over it if necessary. So I'm going to get some yellow and some red on my palette. And I am going to mix it with a pretty significant amount of white. So I'm going to find a place on my palette here. I know some people like to watch. I think my ring light is too bright for you to watch this, but you're really just mixing until you find a color you like. I like this peachy kind of orangey color, especially on a blue background because they're complementary colors. So I'm going for a peachy orange. The yellows are also generally really thin colors, so if you end up going with more yellow than white, it'll be super thin. Ordinarily, when we're trying to make it not look solid, I would like it to be thin, but then the blue will show through and it'll be like a weird, the blue might show through anyway. And that's what we're gonna play with. Okay, I got this really pretty color. I like that. And now what I'm gonna do is, I don't want a ton of paint on my brush, so I'm gonna kind of scrape the excess paint off because I don't want it to be like overloaded here. And I'm just gonna, honestly, like there's no rhyme or reason, there are no rules. I'm just gonna play around until I like it. So I'm going to, now I've decided that this bubble right here is in front and this bubble is in front. It's not super important right now, but it will be. So I'm going to swoop that right there and maybe get one a little higher. Maybe get some, whoops, some over there. And switch it up there. Literally just a brush stroke. I'm kind of following the shape of the bubble a little bit. And I can put some down here too. Now, I have not gotten to any points where things intersect. I will get to things, get to points where things intersect. But I want to be able to do a first outline. I'll show you what I mean in a second. So let's say, okay, I can do that. Now that you've kind of got a feel for that, I'm going to switch back. I'm going to let that dry a little bit. And I'm going to switch back to my skinny brush. And I'm going to grab some white. I'm going to clean and dry my skinny brush off. And I'm going to grab some white. Again, you don't need to overload this with paint because we just want a very vague kind of outline. And when I say outline, remember, it does not have to be solid. So I'm going to go around my bubble and I'm just going to follow the circle. It's okay if it's wonky. It's okay if it's not perfect. See how it skipped some spots? I didn't go back and get more paint really. I just want this big outline. And that's because we're going to go back and do like a more specific outline or edge detail. But when I start painting colors on the ones that are overlapping, I want there to be this vague sense of a bubble behind it because, again, not solid. So it's not going to, having a bubble in front of another bubble is not, you're still going to be able to see this one a little bit. So we want a vague outline there. So I'm going to, whoops. It helps if you actually put the paintbrush on the canvas a little. So I'm going to do the same thing here. And same thing here. And again, if going in a full circle gives you anxiety, break it up into parts. Do like, okay, I'm going to do this part, and then here, and then I can fill this gap in. It does not have to be done all in one shot. Because I know, like, I'm losing some of the steadiness in my hand, and sometimes doing something in one swoop doesn't work for me. So there's nothing wrong with breaking it up a little bit and letting it be a little wonky. Like, you can really see the wonky right there. It's fine. Again, you're painting soap. You're painting see-through soap. All right, so that's my vague outline. Then I'm going to go back to my big brush and I'm going to clean them off. And I'm going to do that like turquoisey color. So I'm going to, and again, just because I'm choosing these colors does not mean that you need to. So I'm going to grab some white and some yellow and a little blue. Oh, that was a lot of blue. Until I get a turquoisey kind of color that I like. Okay. Then I'm going to scrape my brush again. And I'm just going to play. So I am focusing more around the edges because I do want to keep the middles kind of open. Although not every single piece of the edge is going to have some sort of color treatment on it. When you get to these little bubbles, they might end up being more full, and they're really fun to play with because you don't have that full swoop. So I just kind of go in with the corner and add a little bit of color detail. You can also go in with your big wide brush and go like on the skinny side, and you can add like more of a highlight around the edge with a color. So that's kind of fun. You can add like little dabs of color here and there. Okay. Let's see. Where do I want it? Oh, so remember how I said sometimes we're gonna let them mix? So like I'm looking up here and I didn't really like that one that I did. So I'm going to pull it on top of my orange and let them kind of blend together. Really like that one. It's cool. Same here. I don't really love this angle that I did here, so I'm just gonna. All right. I'm gonna clean my big brush off. I'm gonna put some of my pink in there. I didn't do a ton of pink, but I do enjoy the pink. I feel like pink is a very like indicative of soap. I don't know why I think of pink when I think of soap. But I'm gonna add some pink. I didn't explain how to make pink. I'm sorry. It's a lot of white and a little red until you get a color you like. And you can layer the colors on top of each other. It's fine. Now, you can also, and this is what I ended up doing a lot over here. So I'm gonna get some more clean blue on my palette because maybe some of this got a little too intense or a little too rigid and strict, and I wanna kind of lighten that up and change it up. So I cleaned my brush off. Wow, I keep getting so much paint on my hands. And I'm gonna get some blue here. I like this one. This is real intense, very thick. So I'm just going to take my blue and pull it over it. Adding, like, this blue is really thin and I don't have a lot on my brush, so I'm just softening these lines a little bit, adding some of my background blue in. And you might pick up some of the colors that I'm just like fully painting over these at this point. And that's fine because that's gonna make it look really cool. We're gonna go back in and layer it. But adding a thin swoop of this background color to kind of mellow some of these colors out, tone them down, mix them together, it adds to that vibe, that see-through I am soap vibe. Okay, so I just did like a thin layer of blue over everything I just did. So you can see here, it's a little messy, but it's fine. That's what you want. You want messy. I'm gonna clean my brush off again. And maybe I want to go back into my orange mixture. Now, when you go and you put orange on top of wet blue, it's going to be kind of messy. We'll see what happens. Okay, so this one I covered, but I kind of want to put a little bit back in. So I'm going to go, yes. I know you can't see that very well, but it blended perfectly. I want some more of that. So I'm going to start filling this. Yes. Okay, so see how My ring light's really strong. See how there's just like so much texture, looseness. Some of the blue gets pulled in, some of the orange gets pulled down. That is going to help with the looking like it's a bubble. All right, let's get a little orange back in here. Now the less paint you have on your brush, the more you'll get that like rough textured brush stroke, which I think super duper helps. So try not to be too heavy handed. We're kind of like dry brushing here. And this is like there's literally no formula here, guys. There's nothing to go off of. You're just kind of playing. Which I know some of you are gonna hate, but it's fine. I'm gonna go back in and grab some more of that green color. Put a little of that back in. Okay. And there's nothing wrong with variation. So if you run out of a color and you need to mix more, and then you've got like a more pinkish orange and you want to throw some of that in there, a little bit more of a bright orange. Love that. And you're just gonna play with this until you kind of are like, all right, I like it. I can dig it. We're still gonna be putting like white highlights and stuff in there, so don't worry about that yet. But you just, whoops, don't love that I just did. So I'm going to wash my brush off, and I'm gonna grab some blue, some of my background blue, and just kind of paint over it. Ooh. All right, yeah, I like that much better. All right. I feel like I need a little bit more pink in some of these guys. And again, if you want to play with different colors, if you want maybe some yellows, maybe, you will need to mix a significant amount of white into your yellows if you're going to attempt that game. Don't like what I just did there. Oh, but I really like that. Okay. Whenever you do something you don't like, I would just wash your brush and grab some of your background blue and just kind of go over it, because that'll usually blend it out, it'll soften it, it'll just change the game up a little bit. Remember, we still want this to look see-through, so we still want a significant amount of background showing. Okay. All right. How are we doing? Do you love it? Do you hate me for telling you to just kind of go with the flow? I know some people hate that. But that's like when you learn the most about your own style. It's when you learn the most about how colors work together or don't work together. So I think it's kind of necessary. Like you kind of have to figure it out as you go, and that's like half the fun. I think I'm over coloring. You might be, and I did that with this one. When I first played around with it, I didn't love it. It looked too solid. So I went back in and I put some more of that blue over it, and that just kind of like toned it back down and made it look see-through again. Going, okay, like adding yellow. Cool. I can add a little bit of yellow too. Maybe I'll take my little brush. Let's see what happens. I'm going to play. I'm going to take some white and take a little bit of yellow. Let's see, maybe I'll hate this, but it's okay. Ooh, okay. All right, I can dig that. Yeah, I don't know, it's not my favorite, but ooh, adding it like real soft. Okay, so I had too much paint on my brush here, but real soft yellow, so maybe I'll grab a little bit more white. You don't have to add yellow, guys. I didn't add yellow in the original, but somebody said that they were enjoying it, so I wanted to play. Don't forget to scrape the extra paint off your brush, because when it's real light, that's when it's kind of the most fun. That might have gone a little too heavy. I think maybe what some of you guys might be missing is like a highlight. So that yellow kind of worked as a highlight, but not exactly what I'm going for. I'm gonna grab some of my orange to go over some of this yellow. Okay. All right, I tone my yellow back down. Okay, highlighting time. We're gonna need some white, so I'm gonna clean my brush off. And you're gonna want to grab some paint. But you're also gonna wanna make sure that you like hardly have any on your brush, because we're gonna be like dry brushing again. So I'm just kind of scraping it off on the edges of my palette. So what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna drag the white over some coloring that you've already done. So I'm gonna kind of drag the white that way. It's easier if you go too subtle to build it up and add more than it is to take it away if you put too much. So start with almost nothing on your brush, and then you can kind of play around. And you can like skip around like that. Like you see how there's like multiple right there, because it does not have to be in a singular line. And anytime it gets too intense, like I don't like the spot that I just did right there. And I'm actually really not digging my big bubble either. My big bubble's bothering me. I haven't figured out why though yet. So this got too intense. I went back to my blue. I cleaned my brush off and I grabbed some blue and I'm just going over it. Now, you're going back over the white with your dark blue. So it's going to be a lighter blue. It's going to be a slightly different color than your background. That's okay. I'm just kind of carrying it through the rest of the middle of this guy. It will still thin out and it will still give you that illusion of being a bubble. So it's fine. If you want to, this is kind of my rule for everything. If you ever make a mistake or something you don't like, I just add a little bit of it to another place. So I took a little bit of white and mixed it with the blue, and I'm just kind of carrying it into another bubble. I haven't figured out what I don't like about this yet, so let's see. I'm just adding some more dark blue in here. I think maybe I went a little too intense with all of the colors, so I'm just adding some more dark blue. Maybe I'll grab some of my green. Pull that back in. I'm just playing. And don't be afraid to like take a step back because you're working from real close up. And that's not how art is meant to be consumed. So take a step back. I think what I don't like about this middle one, I think I got a little too like circular with my strokes instead of kind of ending them halfway. So I'm just covering some of that up with my dark blue. Okay. All right. I can dig it. Now, what we're going to do is you're going to go back to your skinny brush and we're going to work on our details now. Once you get to a place where you're like, yeah, okay, bubbles, got it. So I'm drying my brush off. I'm going back to my white. And we're going to do the outline again. Now, this is where you have to be careful with what bubble is in front of what, because you can kind of see, I might have gotten a little too wild here. So I'm just gonna lightly, okay. I just took some light blue and kind of lightly put that line back in there. I'm going to take some white and I'm going to go back over my edges. Now, we do want more white paint on our brush, but what we don't want to do is still do we don't want a solid line. So we're going to just take the white and kind of let it go around the circle, let it skip over spots. If you do what I just did here and you do like a little spot that you're like, oh, that's really not circular, that's really not working for me, make it circular, make it where you want it. And I will show you how we're going to adjust that. I'm not going fully around this circle because this bubble is in front. So I'm going to just concern myself with highlighting the edges that can be seen. Same here, I kind of decided that this one was in front this time, even though it's opposite on the other guy. It's okay if there's thicker spots, thinner spots. We want it to kind of skip some spaces. We want it to be a little rough around the edges, literally. All right. Now, if you have some spots that you're like, ooh, don't like that, wash your brush off, grab some, and dry it off, grab some blue paint. And it's okay that you're doing this while it's wet, but we're just gonna go in and kind of clean up those edges with some blue. So I'm just softening that line, maybe making it skinnier. If you got a spot that was a little too thick, you can kind of go back in with some blue and thin it out. You may get a whole new color blue because your white is still wet. That's fine. That's why we're working with so many colors and layering so many different colors, because we want it to be at a place where having a whole bunch of different shades on there is okay. So this is like just the, oops, I just got a billion different colors on my brush. This is like the cleanup part. So we don't want it to be perfect and we don't want it to be actually clean, although it is soap. So, but we just want to kind of like tone down, bring a little contrast back in. So maybe your white, maybe you lost some of the depth because your white is very light and maybe it's right next to a light pink, which is right next to a light orange, you know. So we want to get some contrast back in there. So putting the dark blue back in, especially around the edges a little bit, will help with that. So going in and putting some dark blue back in around my, like the inside of the white part. So right up against the white, but on the inside of my bubble, because I think that will help with contrast. And again, I'm not outlining the whole thing. I'm just adding some detail back in and cleaning it up a little bit. Okay. I'm gonna wash my brush again. And it's time for your very last details. So I got a clean, dry brush. I'm gonna go back into my white paint. And for our very last details, what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna go around some areas and just add like little tiny dots, just kind of like glimmering off so you can see like some there. So maybe there's like a boop, boop, boop. And a boop, boop, boop. Because there would be like little bits of soap kind of dancing around with this. And it does also just kind of help to camouflage some of the rogue white lines that we may have. You don't need to do it on every bubble, but just here and there. You could do some on the inside too, so you can do like a little bit of highlighting here and there. Maybe camouflage an area that you didn't love by putting just a little bit of white bubbly dots in there. Just like a little, it was just like I kind of popped down and dragged it and then skipped a spot and added another one. You don't have to do a ton of them, but it does kind of add to the glowy light quality of this. And speaking of glowy light, the very last thing is we're gonna add some like glimmer, some lens flare, if you will. So for this, you don't want a lot of paint on your brush at all. So I'm gonna just kind of scrape it off. You're gonna pick where you want it. Again, use it to camouflage an area that you don't like. So if there's any edge of a bubble that got a little bit too thick or just got a little wonky on you and you don't like it, use the lens flare to camouflage it. So let's see, on mine, I don't love over here, so I'm going to flick. I'm starting at the middle, like starting right at the line here, and I'm flicking my brush really kind of briskly because I really want it to be kind of thin and feathery. I'm going all the way around. You'll have some that are longer than others, and that's kind of what we're going for. So I'm just flicking. And then maybe okay. That looks fine. And maybe I will do one over here because I don't really love that little dot thing I did. You want to make sure that it goes down into the bubble as well as up. I'm doing it right at the edge because it would be where light hits that particular edge. I only did 2 on that one. I'm only going to do 2 here, but if there's a couple more spots that maybe you want to do, maybe you want to do a small one, maybe like a short little, couple of short little flicks here. You could definitely do that. You'll play around. But my friends, that is it. That's all she wrote. So let me know how you liked this one. I'm a big fan of bubbles, and I just like anything where you get to play like that, and it's not like strict rules, because I don't think art should have rules. So thanks for watching. Thanks for coming back. Thanks for letting me have 2 weeks off because I was gishing. And please post these on Twitter with the tagging me or the hashtag quarantine creatively or both. I know the last time I didn't see that many on Twitter, and that's fine. Like if you're just not wanting to post yours, that's fine. But I like to see them because I can't see you working on them. So I like to see them when you're done. Don't forget to sign your artwork. And I hope you had fun. I have no idea what we're doing next week, but I'll figure it out. I know I said I was supposed to stay like 2 weeks ahead, and I failed at that. But I will figure it out, and I will post it sometime this week. And hopefully you'll like that one too. And yeah, I hope you have a great rest of the evening and finish off your weekend. And I'll see you next week. Bye.